Hey, what's up? It's Jim, and today I'm going to talk about Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning Part 1. I do like these Tom Cruise or Mission Impossible Christopher McQuarrie kind of big, precisely made Hollywood action pictures, and they're really easy to go down. They're always fun to watch. I guess the last three Mission Impossibles, Top Gun, which Christopher McQuarrie was involved in but didn't direct, and they're all like very precise, very at being Hollywood action movies, you know, and it's like, even if I don't love Top Gun Maverick, it's not my favorite like everyone else, I can still appreciate it. And to be honest, like, if I was offered to like watch it again with someone, I totally would. I think I watched it or parts of it a second time, and I was like just really into it. It's not my favorite movie or anything, and I kind of feel it almost comes off as like in a weird sort of anonymous way, like it feels effortless. You sort of almost take it for granted as a viewer, but at the same time it is like pure excellent cinema. I think like Christopher McQuarrie, who directed this as well as the last couple, does such a great job at like making action movies that feel like they're being made as movies. They're very much like, he does a lot of simple kind of editing tricks, like even the thing with there's a car chase in it feels like something that could only exist in a movie, and not in like, even though you had car chases and stuff in the recent Fast X, so many movies now have these crazy action sequences. There's something about the Mission Impossible ones that go this to this to this to this to this to this, and then 45 other this to thises, that is just really infectious while you're watching it. It truly is like kind of seeing something you can't see anywhere else. I don't know if this is really the last two Mission Impossibles. It sort of feels like when Tom Cruise is dead, they'll stop making Mission Impossible movies and it'll become a TV show again, probably. But they're just a lot of fun to watch, and it's fun to watch Tom Cruise risk his life for our enjoyment and have two people who love making these kind of films. I mean, I think they're made in a precision where like they are made by veterans who know exactly what they're doing, but also want to keep pushing themselves to the nth level. But there's a precise craftsmanship to what McQuarrie does and what the work he does with Tom Cruise that is kind of almost like classic Hollywood, where it's like you can tell it's like more craftsman director than auteur. But I think McQuarrie has a lot of the craftsmanship in this, in terms of directing, but and writing and all that stuff so precisely, you really can't escape the craftsman element of it. It does feel like a director who knows exactly what he's doing, with a star who knows exactly what he's doing. And it's like, how can you, in a sense, even if it does feel like you're taking it for granted, how can you not be entertained? So Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning Part 1 is about, this is the whole title, Ethan Hunt and the MI team are back. There is a thing called the Entity, which is this AI thing, and it can like do whatever it wants. Nothing can stop it. It can mold information. It can change things at random. It got out from like this Russian sub. There's a key that is in two parts that they have to get together so they can theoretically control this thing, and it is trying to stop the MI team, where usually technology is one of the things that this franchise is really known for. While they're doing all this stunts and stuff, they can't use as much technology, so things get weird while Truth and Ethan Hunt's past, and you have Ilsa Faust, played by Rebecca Ferguson. You also have Haley Atwell. How is he going to deal with these two ladies? All sorts of things as Ethan Hunt tries to find the MacGuffin to stop the other MacGuffin, which is the AI thing, which is controlled by somebody from his past. And hopefully the most ultimate mission of Impossibles is not too impossible this time, I guess. The whole thing with the AI stuff, it is relevant for right now. It makes a lot of sense why you do that, but I think its spin on it, which I don't think people are acknowledging as much, is like these films are about technology, and the idea that technology could go bad, that they have to find other ways around these things and understand how technology can be wrong for them, is actually kind of interesting in this franchise, because they use it so often. They use like these cutting edge techniques and all this stuff, or in this one they have to find ways around it, which is an interesting premise. I wish they kind of did more with it. You know, that'd be an interesting idea for a James Bond movie. That's interesting for Mission Impossible, which I think have turned out to be culturally more of what James Bond used to be. But it is interesting, that idea. I wish they did more with it. But there's also like, as much as I want to say like this is very well made and very well done, and I think it fits in with the other McQuarrie Mission Impossibles. I don't. Everyone has a Mission Impossible ranking, it seems like. I don't know which is necessarily. I guess Ghost Protocol is my favorite, which is, you know, I'm in the minority there. But I would say this is like towards the top for me. Maybe it doesn't pop out from the other ones, but one of the things I do think is, like, you have this team. You have Simon Pegg and Ving Rhames, and then you have Rebecca Ferguson. But the problem is like they add Haley Atwell in this, and it doesn't really work. It would make more sense if he was just with Ilsa Faust again and not like new lady, and it just sort of really didn't work, and I felt like they didn't give her character as much to do, and maybe that's leading to something in part 2. That's a whole other thing about this movie. That part didn't seem to work very well. Like, they either should not have had Rebecca Ferguson at all, or get rid of Haley Atwell. Them being together didn't really work. Vanessa Kirby is fine because she, you know, all the villains work perfectly well. But having Ethan Hunt split his attention between these two women, it didn't feel like they had a real good concept for why they're doing it, other than like, oh, he has a new girl and that's what happens to all the women and all this stuff. Like, if they'd done a callback, a couple people I've seen cite Thandie Newton from the second one because she's a thief and Haley Atwell's character and this is a thief. That would have probably worked a little better, and you'd think, like, in some of these things, like, you'd feel more of a conflict there or something like that. At least I think so. I mean, I like Haley Atwell, to be honest, and she does the stunts well. Having her, this comparison between Rebecca Ferguson, who's just incredibly amazing in these films, I think was a bad decision, frankly. But everyone else, like the regulars, are great. Rebecca Ferguson, Simon Pegg, and Ving Rhames. I love that Ving Rhames, off of his like post-Pulp Fiction buzz, has pushed that buzz from the first Mission Impossible to this is amazing. Good for him. As well as Simon Pegg is great. And Tom Cruise is just his Tom Cruise-iest, I guess. He's always good as Ethan Hunt. He's always a lot of fun as Ethan Hunt. You can tell the showmanship is always there in that. This is a part 1 of the 3 part 1s I've seen this summer. Spider-Verse, Fast X, and this. I think this works best as its own movie. It definitely like tries to work as one thing, but also, you know, there's more to do kind of thing. And I think that actually, I mean, you know there's a part 2, but that's not a spoiler. It feels like it could be one movie, which I actually thought was a smarter move, honestly. And that is like usually when you do the 2-part thing, whether it be Harry Potter or the Avengers Endgame, Infinity War, they were different movies, and this did not feel like I was being dropped in the middle of something. The other thing is like watching Tom Cruise do these stunts. He's always amazing, but I had a theory with the John Wick movie, and I've been thinking about it a lot, is how Chaplin and Keaton, if they were around today, they would not be in comedies, they would be action stars. I do think that a lot. There's certain scenes in the train that felt like, I was like, yeah, Buster Keaton would love this. He would love this sequence. It obviously, because it's on a train, but there's a lot of elements to it that you can tell he would really like. And some of the action sequences, some of the better ones in this, feel like that, like very smart, like filmed, like thrilling performance, which I think was all in silent film and all throughout what Tom Cruise is doing in this. Now watching it versus like something like John Wick 4, is that John Wick 4 can get weird, can get strange, can surprise you a lot more. And this, not question, not say anything too weird, keep it kind of streamlined and normcore and all that stuff. They're just really good at it. And there's not going to be a cameo by an older movie star or something like that. It's all about Tom Cruise as a Tom Cruise vehicle. That's what we're doing. I don't know if like after this whole summer of like all these huge movies and stuff, and how much praise we gave Tom Cruise all last year for saving movies and stuff, I don't know if I find this as spectacular in terms of the direction, because I think it's more like, oh, this MacGuffin hunt is so precisely made and so perfectly made, and like there's a definite art to that, and I love that. But I when I'm thinking of something like John Wick, which would play with that form a little more, this is just so straight. It's a little ridiculous in some cases. But I am curious where they go with this plotline. I am curious where it continues. One of the things that worked really well about this franchise, what used to work about this franchise, is you had a different director and different voice, where, you know, De Palma, John Woo, J.J. Abrams, Brad Bird, and then Christopher McQuarrie, and we're just like stuck at Christopher McQuarrie. And I feel like this franchise worked well, was like an auteur franchise, or a different auteur franchise every time, and then it became Christopher McQuarrie's auteur franchise. And I kind of don't like that anymore. I want them to mix around and mess with stuff, and like maybe McQuarrie writes the scripts, that's fine, but I do feel like it's kind of like, yeah, this is a really good director and he's really great, and I don't think this is a bad movie. I wish it'd mess around a little more, but I think it is probably one of the better of the summer movies. It's the best at being a summer movie. It's almost like the perfect dream factory of Hollywood, kind of what you'd expect a summer movie to be and a Mission Impossible movie to be. And it feels like everyone involved, including Tom Cruise, wants that all to happen and wants it to happen and wants you to be amazed by it. And even like the bike thing doesn't feel as amazing. It's like part of such a bigger thing. And you're like, oh, you did the bike thing, the cliff there, which is everywhere. So that's not, it's even on the poster. I think when we're coming to where the Mission Impossible movies are, I almost feel like, I think I remember hearing these were going to be the last ones, but I honestly don't think Tom Cruise will ever stop. And it just feels like another solid entry, which at this point, it's like we've had, I didn't like 2, so I know people do, but I don't, it's been a while since I've seen it, in fairness, but I really didn't like it when I saw it. But pretty solid entries since 3, and most of this franchise is really solid. But I think something this franchise needs to do is it needs to mess around. Like, you've had this good run and they're all wonderful, but they do start to mesh together in certain ways. Like, there needs to be something more at this point. And with everything, with a John Wick, with a Fast X, with so many of these other things, it feels like it's just pushing itself within itself, like the problem with the Bond movies ended up having, which is like they're just being answers to themselves and exist in their own world, minus what's happening in film at this time. And it's weird because I still think this is really great. I still think audiences would like it, but like in comparison to something with like the John Wick franchise, which is very popular, looking at even Spider-Verse or how many movies this summer, it just feels like they're really, really good at doing this one thing. And part of me is like, can't you just mess around with it a little bit? But since they're not, and since that's what this is, I am happy with it. I was thrilled by it. I had a really good time with it. But as I left, and I didn't see it too long ago, it does feel like it's sort of meshing together and everything. It was a great, wonderful Hollywood production. It was a great, wonderful distraction. But I wonder how much of Dead Reckoning Part 1 I'll remember when I get to Part 2. I was already planning to rewatch it right before Part 2 just in case, but I feel like it's so precise and so well plotted out and so figured out how to make this Mission Impossible movie. It feels like it's moving so fast you don't notice sometimes it doesn't have as much of a soul as you wish it did. It makes it a little unmemorable because of that, even if they are swinging for the fences doing all this stuff and also referencing Lawrence of Arabia again. What, did you guys all watch that last year or something? I do like this movie, and I do like what McQuarrie and Tom Cruise are doing. There used to be a time where these guys would mess around and experiment, and I guess I miss that. But, and I guess I wish it was a little weirder sometimes and stuff like that, but maybe that's not what this is supposed to do. This is supposed to give you a solid Mission Impossible film, and that in itself, it doesn't disappoint. But maybe I'm too interested in how the sausage gets made and just enjoy this sausage or something that is this Mission Impossible movie. Or maybe I should question this whole thing and think about like, well, why aren't we doing anything more with this? But maybe I should just enjoy it and just shut up and just ignore those other thoughts, and hopefully, you know, the next one will just be another solid entry, and we can just have the franchise of solid entries that exists unto itself, not acknowledging what's going on in the world, a film or anything outside of that, just kind of like on its own weird Mission Impossible plane, where I'm just here to enjoy it and sort of not question what they're doing, because I don't need to question what they're doing, because I'm always going to have some sort of enjoyment out of a Mission Impossible movie. So if you've seen Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning Part 1 and you would like to talk about it, comment below in the comments and subscribe if you would like to.